program, and for that matter, UBC, one of the main requirements for PhD students is to have a supervisor. I always tell my friends that if you have a supervisor, your chances of admission is almost 100%. Of course, nothing is 100%, but you are guaranteed. You are almost guaranteed. So when I see friends say, oh, Sam, I want to study at UBC, I want to do my PhD, I said, you can apply. Nothing wrong with that. But for most programs, if you have a supervisor, you can be assured of your admission. So that's the first thing I tell everybody. Look for a supervisor. And maybe in the next section, I'll talk about how to find a supervisor, but that'll be my main key advice. And once you have a supervisor at UBC, there is something called guaranteed minimum funding. I am funded for 4 years. That's why I want to finish my PhD in 4 years. I don't know what will happen after 4 years, but for the first 4 years, I am sure I'll be receiving funding. So we have a guaranteed minimum funding for the first 4 years.
Thank you. Thank you. So you talked about getting a supervisor, and I know we'll be talking about this, but what is it that you can include? How or where do you get these supervisors from?
Yes, I can just jump in quickly before. So for what I did was I went to UBC website. There is a place for list of supervisors. So I'm using UBC as an example, but it happens across Canada. As a matter of fact, every school operates in a very similar manner. I want to be smart at the same time. I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to look too smart. So what I did, I have a template with introduction letter, body of the letter, conclusion of the letter. And then I went through this supervisors list. I just want to do my PhD. So I wasn't keen on what kind of supervisor to work with, or I just want a PhD, to be honest with you. I wanted to move to Canada. And so I looked through all supervisors. So one thing people get wrong is writing dear sir, dear doctor, dear professor. Chances are that people wouldn't respond if you do that. So if I look through your profile and your name is Kimani, I write dear Dr. Kimani. It's a pleasure reaching out to you. I would like you to be my supervisor. Then I read a little bit about their bio and said, I read your paper, the relationship between Kenya and Ghana and how Africans can support that. And this is a good paper, and I would want to work more on in your field. When you do that, the person knows you've taken an effort to read about them, to read about their bio, but not all about what you want to do. Oh, my name is Sam, and I want to research on Canada-Ghana relationship. And the guy said, this is not in my field. Now, I don't forward the same letter to people, but in a one sitting, I can write to about 5 supervisors. But what I do is the next person, I change the name and I address them by their name. So the next person I write, dear Dr. Sopuruchi. And then I've read your paper, Law and Intelligent Property Among WHO Traders. And this is something fantastic. So you realize that the template is the same, but I include a section where I read their paper and I take some few things from their publication. That way they realize, oh, this guy really took an effort and made an effort to read about me, about my biography, about my papers. Also, what I do is I read the recent one. So I said, I've read your recent publication among many. So that is something I encourage people to do. I see a lot of people write, dear sir, dear professor, my name is this, I'm from this, I want to do PhD at UBC. I'll be grateful if you'll be my supervisor. Thank you. That wouldn't go anywhere because they know you've really not read about them. So that would be my first advice to anybody reaching out to a supervisor.
Thank you so much. So talking about being personable and having insights onto the people that you're trying to look for as a basic requirement for opportunity. Uncle Sop, do you think you would say the same?
Yes. In fact, I would totally second or adopt his position as mine, which is exactly what I did. For us in law, we also have a guaranteed minimum funding. Mm-hmm. However, they can also look at your credentials and increase your funding. So they increase their funding for our cohort to what they call 4-year fellowship, right? And the initial funding they gave us was too small, but this one is small, right? So it also included the tuition and all that. So for me, getting a PhD offer in law followed the process you talked about. First of all, in law here at UBC, you don't have to get a supervisor first. They tell you to apply without a supervisor. But I know that is a trap. Because I'm a teacher myself, so I know how we think about these things. Right? I have also been in faculties where they consider PhD students, and I know if there is nobody on the panel that is doing the same thing as you, nobody will look at your work. So even though they say don't bother to look for a supervisor, please go ahead and look for one. Right? Go to the website, be sure that your proposal tallies with at least the project one person is doing, and try to convince that person to be your supervisor. And so what I did was I wrote to one of the professors I saw, matched what I was doing, using the same format he talked about. I had to read one or two of their papers, extract things from what is their interest and what they are doing at the moment, and say, I want to develop this further. So I now included the name of that person in my application as somebody who is potentially interested in supervising me. Right? So when I did that, my supervisor now is not that person. Right? But I found out that because I've already done that, she was now interested in my research, but of course it was given to somebody else. However, the person I wrote to is now agreeing to be my supervisory team. Mm-hmm. So follow the procedure of having to do the work. You must know that nothing good will just fall on your lap. So just remove that idea from your head. It can never fall on your lap. You have to go and look for it. And that means you have to make the effort required in doing this. And it may take you, the process of applying to different universities is work. You may say, oh, let me just quickly in 1 hour, I'll just fly. But by the time you get one paper and you read it and you are looking at your proposal and you are realizing my proposal is not in line with this person's, you start looking for people who actually align with what you want to do. So it's a process. You have to sit down and clean out your papers, not your paper, rather, clean out your proposal, ensure it ties to somebody who is working on the project that you want to do, appeal to the person to be your supervisor. If they agree, your chances of admission increases exponentially. So that is what I would like to add.